Hey guys, Netherite Dev here. Welcome back to how to make a game like Blade Ball Part 2. In today's video, we are going to be making the ball killing system. So you can see once the game starts in 1 second here, a ball will spawn in. It is going to choose the closest player and target it. When that player is hit, they will explode, and then the other player will win the match. Now, if you haven't already, make sure to watch part 1 because this will not work without it. And if somehow both of the players were to die to the same explosion, so here, if they spawn in at the same place and the ball hits both of them at once, it'll print out nobody won the match as well, so the game can tie as well. I just thought I'd point that out. Anyway, yeah, I hope this video helps you. If it does, leave a like and subscribe. Now let's go ahead and get right into it. Alright, so before we get started, we need to prepare and also fix some things from last episode. So first of all, open server script service and the round system script, and we're going to get our counting down and game active variables we created last time, and we're going to move them into our round system events folder in server storage. Replicated storage. We're going to move it into the folder in replicated storage. Then we can open up the round system script, and we're going to change these two variables here. For game active, instead of being script : wait for child, it's going to be replicated storage dot round system events dot game active, and here it'll be replicated storage dot round system events dot counting down. And while we are in the script, we are going to change a few more things as well. So for one of my brilliant viewers of last episode left me a note in the comment section pointing out that if one player wins twice, the game will break, and that is obviously not good. To fix this, go down to the game start function on this if statement that says if active players is equal to 1. We are going to just add in a line here right after the winner variable. We're going to call our remove player function we made last episode and send over the winner. And that should fix it. Simple as that. Another thing we want to change is make it possible to tie, because with the ball system there is a possibility that both of the players left can die at the same time, and if that happens, we want the game to tie. So below this break, we're going to add in an else if hashtag active players is equal to 0. Then we're going to update text. We're going to send over nobody won the match with a visibility of true. We're going to wait 5 seconds, so task.wait 5, and we're going to set the game active value to false, so game active value is equal to false, and we can call our check for players function. Alright, so now back to the top of our game start function. Right above all these variables here, we are going to go down a few lines. We are going to create a value called in-game that will go inside the player, and this will let the ball script know that the player is currently in the game and not in the lobby. We're going to call this value in-game, so local in-game is equal to instance.new, and we're going to make an int value. Doesn't really matter what type of value it is. We're going to just go ahead and name it, so int_value.name is equal to in-game. Make sure to spell it exactly like this, and we can set the parent of it, so in-game.parent is equal to the player. So when the player is added into this game, this value will be inserted into their player, and that'll basically let the script know later that this player is in the game and not in the lobby. And when the player goes into the lobby, we want to remove this value because they're no longer in the game, they are in the lobby now. So go up to our player remove function, or remove player function, and we're going to set a variable for in-game, so local in-game spelled the same is equal to a player find first child in game. We're going to check if this value exists. The in-game value is in the player, so if in-game, then we're going to do in-game destroy. So we're going to get rid of that because they are no longer in the game, they are in the lobby. Now we're going to move the two table.remove values into an if statement that's going to check that the player's actually in the table before we remove them. I don't really know how to explain it, but the script will bug later if we don't do what I'm about to do. So instead of removing them from the table immediately, we're going to check that they're in the table. So we can do if table.find active players, ID. Then we can go ahead and cut this line right here and paste it here. So if the player is in the active players table, then we're going to remove them from that table. And we can do the same thing with this line here. So if table.find queued players, comma ID. Then we're going to paste in this line to remove them from the queued players table. Make sure the if statement matches up with the correct table. So if you do table.find active players, then make sure you're removing them from the active players table. And that should be all the changes we need to make for our round system script for this episode. Now we can go ahead and move on to scripting the ball system. So before we do this, we can go ahead and insert a sphere, and we can set the color of it to red. I'm going to make it about half its size. Then we can just go ahead and position this as close to the middle as we can. Right here is pretty close to the middle. And then we can just simply move it a few studs off the ground. We can then go ahead and name this part to ball and move it into server storage. So now on server script service, we can add in a script, and we can go ahead and name it to ball handler. And this script will be controlling the ball, making it track the player and stuff like that. Actually, before we do the ball handler script, we can go ahead and open the round system configuration script, and we are going to set 2 more variables. So first of all, we can do ball speed. So this is how fast the ball will move when it spawns in. So for me, I'm going to set it to 10. Then we can do semicolon, and then we're going to do ball acceleration. So this is how fast the ball is going to accelerate every time the loop runs. So for me, I'm going to set it to 0.5, and that's all we need for our configuration script for now. Actually, we can go ahead and move our configuration script from under round system. We can just move it into server script service, because it's not only for the round system, it's for other things as well. And then back in the round system script again, the very first line, instead of being script : wait for child config, it is just going to be game.server script service : wait for child config. So go ahead and change that. Alright, now in the ball handler script, we're going to set some variables. So first of all, we're going to set a variable for replicated storage and server storage. So local replicated storage is equal to game : get service replicated storage. And we're also going to get server storage. So local server storage is equal to game : get service server storage. And we're also going to get player service and run service. So local players is equal to game : get service. We're going to get players. And local run service is equal to game : get service run service. Now we're going to call our configuration module that we just edited. So local config is equal to require game.server script service : wait for child config. We're also going to set a variable called cspeed, which is short for current speed. And the current speed is going to equal the speed that you set in the configuration, so ball speed. So cspeed is equal to config.ballspeed. Now we're going to get our game active value that we created last episode for the round system. So local game active is equal to replicated storage dot round system events dot game active. Now we're going to create a variable for the ball we created earlier in server storage. So local ball is equal to server storage dot ball. And we're going to create another variable called clone ball, and we're not going to establish this variable, so for now it's going to be equal to nil, but later it will get its own value. And we can establish another empty variable called target player. So local target player. And lastly, we can create a table called dead players. So local dead players is equal to, and then pointy brackets. So now we can start coding functions, starting with find nearest player. So this function will find the nearest player to the ball, and the ball will start tracking that player later. So we can do local function find nearest player, and now we're going to set some variables again. So local nearest player is equal to nil. We're going to set a variable called valid players. So these are the players currently in the game and not in the lobby. We're going to set this to 0. And local shortest distance is equal to math.huge. Then we're going to create a loop that goes through all the players in the game. So for I, player in pairs game.players get players do. So first of all, we're going to get the distance between the player and the ball. So local distance is equal to, and then we're going to do parentheses player dot character dot humanoid roots parts dot position minus ball dot position, and then outside the parentheses dot magnitude. And then we're going to check if the player has that in-game value that we inserted into them. Local in-game is equal to player colon find first child in game. Make sure you spell it exactly like this again. So we're gonna check if that value exists. So if in game, then we're gonna add one valid player, so valid players plus equals 1, and we're gonna check if they are the closest player. So if distance is less than shortest distance and not table.find dead players comma player dot user ID, and then we're going to set the shortest distance to this distance. So shortest distance equals to distance, and nearest player is equal to this player. Alright, so after the loop, we're going to check if the amount of valid players is less than 1, greater than 1. So if there's more than one valid player, then we're going to set the target player to the nearest player. So basically, the nearest player becomes the target for the ball. And that is it for this function. Now we're going to create another function called reset. And what this function will do is after the player dies to the ball, it is going to remove the ball, it is going to set the speed back to normal and get a new target player, stuff like that. So we can do local function reset. And we're going to start by checking if a clone ball exists. So if the ball has been cloned, so if clone ball, then we're going to do clone ball colon destroy. And it will appear orange right now. That is normal. It will go away later when we define the clone ball. Below that if statement, we can set the C speed to config.speed or .ball speed. And we're going to set the target player to nil. And down here, we're going to loop through all the players in the game again. So for I, comma player in pairs, players colon get players we're gonna check if that player has a character. So if player dot character, and if that character has a highlight, so and player dot character colon find first child of class highlight, then we can just go ahead and copy this right here and add in a colon destroy, and that is it for our reset function. Alright, so now we're actually going to create the function that will spawn the ball. So local function spawn ball. So the first thing we're going to do in this function is we're going to call our reset function we just made. So we're going to delete the previous ball and set the speed and everything back to normal. And then we're going to find the nearest player, so we can call that function as well. We're going to make sure that a target player has been found. So if not target player or game active dot value is not equal to true, then we're going to call our reset function, and then we're just going to return. So we're going to break this function, but if none of these things are the case, we're just going to continue. So now we're going to finally define our clone ball. So clone ball is equal to ball colon clone. And as soon as you write this line, this clone ball right here should not be red like it was earlier. And we're going to set the parent of the ball to workspace. So clone ball dot parent is equal to workspace. Alright, so now we're going to detect when the clone ball is touched. So clone ball dot touched colon connect function. And we're going to set a parameter called hit. So when the ball is touched, we're going to run this function. So first of all, we're going to check that it was hit by a player. So local HRP, which stands for humanoid root part, is equal to hit.parent colon find first child humanoid root part. So if the humanoid root part exists, then so if it hit a player and not the ground or something, then we're going to create an explosion. So we can do local explosion is equal to instance.new. We're going to create an explosion. We're going to set the blast radius of this explosion to 1. So explosion.blast radius is equal to 1. We're going to set the blast pressure to 5. So explosion.blast pressure is equal to 5. So this is like how much force the explosion has. And we're going to set the position. So explosion.position is equal to humanoid root part, or HRP.position. And lastly, we're going to set the parent to the player. So explosion.parent is equal to humanoid root part. Alright, so now we're going to get the in-game value that's in the player that we created earlier, and we are going to remove it. So local in-game is equal to target player colon find first child, and we're going to get in-game. Make sure it's spelled like this again, and we're going to check if that exists. So if in-game then, so if this exists, we're going to destroy it. So we can do in-game destroy, and then we're going to insert that player that just died into our dead players table we made at the very beginning. So if not table.find dead players, comma target player dot user ID, then so if the player is not already in the dead players table, we're going to insert them into it. So table dot insert dead players, comma target player dot user ID. Under this, we can call our reset function again, and we're just going to wait 5 seconds. So task.wait 0.5 seconds. So we're gonna wait 0.5 seconds, and if the game active dot value is still equal to true, so if game active dot value is equal to true, then we're going to call the function again. So we're just going to type spawn ball and then return under that. So if the game is still active, we're going to start this function all over again, and then it's just going to continue. Alright, and then what we're going to do is when the game active value changes, so when the game starts, we want to call our spawn ball function and get everything working. So we can do game active dot changed connect function. We're going to check if game active is true. So if game active dot value is equal to true, then we're gonna wait 1.5 seconds, and then we're going to spawn in the ball. So we can do task.wait 1.5, and then we can just call spawn ball, and then we're gonna add in an else. So if the game active changes but it's false instead of true, we're gonna clear our dead players table. So table.clear dead players, and that's all we need for this. So now if we were to test it with 2 players, it actually should spawn in a ball. So when the queue starts, or the game starts, you can see it waits 1.5 seconds and then it spawns in the ball. Now this ball does not chase us yet, but if we were to touch it, it should kill us. Yep, there we go, it kills us, and then the ball disappears. It says player 2 has won the match, and then when the game starts again, the ball should spawn in again. Yep, it's there, and if we touch it again, it'll kill us again. So now we need to make the ball chase us, and also highlight the targeted player and the other players as well. So above the spawn ball function, we're going to create another function. So we can do local function highlight players. So to start off, we're going to loop through all the players in the game again. So for I, player in pairs players get players. We're going to check if the players are in the game and not in the lobby. So if player find first child in game, make sure it's spelled like this again, then we're going to check if the player already has a highlight, and if so, we want to destroy that highlight. So we can actually go up to our reset players function, and we can copy these 3 lines right here, and we can just paste them in here. Then after that, we're going to create a new highlight. So local highlight is equal to instance.new, and we're going to create a highlight and set the parent of it to the player's character. So we're setting the parent of it to the character, and we're also going to set the add-or-knee to the character as well. So highlight.add-or-knee is equal to player.character. So now we're going to change the color of the highlight depending on if they're the target or they're not the target. So if player is equal to target player, then we're going to set the highlight color to red. So highlight.fill color is equal to color3.fromRGB, and then we're going to do 255,0,0, which will make a red color. And we can also do highlight.outline color is equal to color3.fromRGB 255,0,0. So we're creating a red highlight. And then we can do else. So if the player is not the target player or the player the ball is chasing, we're going to do a highlight.fill transparency is equal to 1, and we're going to set the outline color. So highlight.outline color is equal to color3.fromRGB, and we can just make it white, which is 255,255,255. That makes white. And then lastly, we can just go ahead and call this function. So back in our spawn ball function, we can go right under our clone ball equals ball clone, this line right here. We can just go ahead and call highlight players. So again, we can test with 2 players. When the countdown ends, the ball should spawn in, but this time the player should get highlighted. So you can see the player the ball is after, even though it's not chasing us, turns red, and the other players will turn white. And when we touch the ball, our highlights disappear, just like that. Alright, so now we need the ball to actually follow the player. Before we do that, I was looking back at the code and I noticed a mistake. On our find nearest players function, on the for loop where it says for I comma player in pairs, instead of putting game.players, we can just put players get children. So replace game.players with players. Anyway, now to make the ball chase the player, we can go all the way to the bottom and we're going to do run service dot heartbeat connect function. So if target player and game active dot value is equal to true and target player find first child in game, then so we're making sure the game is running, target player has been selected and the target player is not in the lobby, and if so, we are going to follow that player. So we can do local target position is equal to target player dot character wait for child humanoid root parts dot position, and we're also going to get the position of the ball. So local current position is equal to clone ball dot position, and we're going to get the direction that the ball needs to go. So local direction is equal to, and then in parentheses, target position minus current position, and then we're going to do dot unit outside of the parentheses. And now we're going to set our C speed variable, our current speed. So current speed is equal to C speed plus config.ball acceleration. So we're going to accelerate the ball every time this runs. And then we're going to make the ball move in that direction. So clone ball.velocity is equal to direction times C speed. And then we can just go ahead and add in an else. So if one of these requirements here are not met, for example, if the target player returns nil or the game is not running, we're just going to call our reset function. And as you can see, now when the countdown ends, the ball will start tracking the red player and it'll chase them down and kill them when it gets to them. And it is working. I might need to make the acceleration a little bit higher, but it does work. So you see the ball chooses a player and then it just chases after it and kills them. Now I did notice watching that the ball seemed to start dragging on the ground. I would like the ball to go in the air towards the player's head. So in order to do that, I'm just going to change the target position. Instead of getting the character's humanoid root part, I'm going to change it to wait for child head. So I'm going to target the head instead of the humanoid root part. That should make the ball travel a little bit higher. And there's still one more function we need to code, because what if the player the ball is tracking leaves the game while the ball is tracking them? That'll probably break this script here, and we do not want that to happen. So above the game active function, we're going to create one last function real quick, and so we can do players.player removing connect function, and we're going to set the parameter to player. So we're going to check if the player that's leaving is equal to the target player, and if so, we're going to insert them into the dead players table. So player.insert dead players, player.user ID. And then they're going to restart everything by calling the spawn ball function again, and that should be it. So upon starting the game, the ball should spawn, and this time you can see it is not going as low as it was before. It is aiming for the player's head. I personally think that looks better. And yeah, it tracks the player. And then once they die, the other player will win the game, and then the game starts all over again. If both players were to die to the same explosion, the game will tie. Just to prove it to you, I deleted every spawn except for one of them. So if this ball were to hit both of us at the same time, it'll say nobody won the match. So yeah, anyways guys, that is it for this video. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. I really hope that this helped you. Next video is going to hopefully be the blocking system, so stay tuned for that. Anyway, I will see you on the next video. Bye!